BBC News.
The Second World War wasn't only fought abroad. There were huge contributions to the war effort on home soil, and many women found themselves in drastically different situations from their pre-war lives. The Women's Land Army saw more than 200,000 women move into crucial agricultural jobs throughout the Second World War and beyond. We can speak now to Cherish Watton. She works for an independent research group, the UK in a changing Europe, but she has for a number of years also researched as a Women's Land Army historian. Thanks so much for joining us on BBC News, Cherish Watton. The Women's Land Army must have been an extraordinary shift for some women, because initially they were asked to volunteer, weren't they? But from 1941 they were actually conscripted. They had no choice.
It was a real significant change for women. Many of them had worked in jobs that didn't require lots of hard, physical, strenuous labour. It was incredibly hard work and a massive change in lifestyle. For many land girls, they moved from the towns to the country, some not even knowing how to milk a cow before and told just to go on and do it. So it was an incredible change.
And what other sorts of challenges did they face in the Land Army?
One of the challenges they faced was particularly from farmers and the farming community, who were initially concerned about whether women would actually be up to the task of doing hard farm work and working in the forests. They weren't actually sure that women were up to it, but over time women really did amazing work on the land and proved that they could help increase our food production. At the beginning of the war, we were importing 70% of our food, but at the end we were 70% self-sufficient.
And that's amazing, and that's as a result, or in large part as a result, of their efforts.
Indeed, it was, and it's a real sense of resilience in learning these new agricultural skills which they just didn't know before.
Is there a lot of written testimony from women of those times?
Yes, we have a lot of memoirs that have been published by women. We also have obviously oral history interviews, and we also have some incredible documents from the time. There's a magazine called The Land Girl, which has lots of letters and insights from women during the war sharing what they were doing. So yes, there is a real rich source body.
And did women come to enjoy their work, or were they resentful, or was it a mixture?
I think it was a mixture. A lot of women recounted their time in the Land Army as the best times in their lives. It was a chance for independence, to move away and to learn new skills. But equally, some women were incredibly isolated and lonely, and sometimes they didn't get on very well with the farmers that they were living with. So it really was a mixture. And obviously women today, they do still suffer from some of the effects on their body as a result of the hard work that they were carrying out.
Which they will have been, a lot of them will have been unused to. It is, of course, VE Day today. It's a day of commemoration. And that day, May the 8th, 1945, will have been the start of a huge change for many of those women.
It was. It was obviously a day of a range of emotions, obviously amazing happiness, but also sort of a sense of reflection and sadness as well for land girls who'd lost family members and loved ones during the war. But it's important to remember that the Women's Land Army continued right up until November 1950. We still needed to have a good supply of food.
Yes, of course. Really interesting, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much. That's Cherish Watton on the Women's Land Army. Well, on VE Day, the Queen or